In the beginning, heaven and earth were one, a single united reality, God's space and our space overlapping perfectly. There was no separation, no distance, just the full presence of God dwelling with humanity. In the Garden of Eden, God walked among people. It was not just paradise, it was a temple where God and humans shared life together. This was the vision, heaven and earth together as one. But something changed. Humanity chose rebellion, seeking independence from God's wisdom. And as sin entered the world, heaven and earth were torn apart. God's presence, so pure and holy, could no longer dwell in the same way. But God did not give up. He began a plan to reconnect heaven and earth once again. He gave Israel the tabernacle and later the temple. These sacred spaces were not just buildings, they were portals where heaven touched earth. In them, God's presence dwelled, offering a glimpse of what once was and what would come again. But even these were only temporary. Human failure continued. Idolatry, injustice, and pride drove God's presence further away, until one day heaven came down, not to a building, but in a person, Jesus of Nazareth. He claimed to be the temple in human form. Through him, heaven and earth touched again. Jesus healed the sick, forgave sins, welcomed the outcast. Every act was a sign God is with us again. He became the new meeting place between God and humanity. But he was rejected, nailed to a cross, the place where God's presence and human rebellion collided. And yet, through that death, the curtain in the temple was torn. A way was opened. 3 days later, Jesus rose, alive, physical, transformed. A new creation had begun. The temple was no longer a place. It was a people, those who followed Jesus, filled with his Spirit. Today, heaven and earth overlap. Wherever God's Spirit dwells, in acts of love, mercy, justice, worship, and sacrifice. The church isn't a building, it's the people in whom heaven touches earth. And the story isn't over. Revelation speaks of a day when heaven and earth will be fully reunited again. No more tears, no more death, no more distance between God and his people. The Bible doesn't end with us escaping to heaven. It ends with heaven coming down to earth, God dwelling among us face to face forever.